Hi, folks. Welcome back to the fourth official here on YouTube. I am always your host, Gary Morris, and joining me once again is Nicola Ironside to look back on what was a big game at the weekend as Rangers took on Dundee in the quarterfinals of the Premier Sports Cup. And anyone that joined us for our last show, kind of previewing the game, Nicola, will have known that there was a lot, I think, going into the game, particularly from a Dundee perspective, where you were confident going into it, and I think certainly the outcome of the game certainly wasn't the way that you were certainly looking for it to go. But I think lots of talking points, I think, from both sides for us to get into.
Yeah, it was definitely. I wouldn't say I was overly confident, but I was definitely more confident than I would usually be taking on Rangers in a quarter-final. So yeah, definitely some disappointing points for me, that's for sure.
Yeah, we spoke on Thursday about obviously the game being back at Ibrox in terms of the first game back after Rangers having started the season at Hampden. A crowd of just over 34,000 in attendance there with some empty seats, particularly in the Copeland. Certainly the Copeland rear not opened, but some other empty seats there. Now, a decent travelling support coming down from Dundee as well, which I think always makes for a good atmosphere kind of pre-match. Looking at the match itself, we spoke a lot on Thursday night about the threat that the likes of Lyle Cameron and Simon Murray would have going the other way on the Rangers defence. And I think it's fair to say I think Cameron had a better game than Simon Murray had in terms of being there. I thought Cameron, again, enhanced his reputation in terms of someone I think to watch out from. And I thought his post-match comments were really, really interesting, where he spoke a lot about Luke McCowan's move to Celtic and how that's maybe something that he sees in his future. Obviously, not someone that you'll be rushing to get out the door, but I think he's someone that's got a very high ceiling.
Yeah, interestingly enough, actually, I actually don't think Lyle had that great game on Saturday compared
Okay.
to previous seasons. And even start of the season when Luke was in the team, I actually felt like for the majority of the game, and I said this to a few people, that he treated the ball a bit like a hot potato. That's so it's interesting to have separate takes on what I would look out for in terms of Lyle's play and what obviously you're seeing.
Yeah.
But
Obviously, you see him every week, whereas I see him 4 times a year. So I think that there's maybe a bit of that to it. But I thought he certainly second half, I thought looked dangerous when Dundee were certainly a bit more involved in the game. And I think there was that period just after the second goal from Tavernier's penalty, and I want to get your take on Dundee's defending at set pieces, which I thought was agricultural, I think, at best at times. But there was a period, I think, after Tavernier's penalty where Dundee were really in the game and had a couple of real opportunities that, if they'd taken them, would have made the second half, I think, a lot more different than it turned out to be. A couple of real good opportunities and good goalkeeping, I think, from Jack Butland, and a really poor header. I can't remember the Dundee's player that had the header over a bar, which looked a real good golden opportunity. Yeah, I think that was from a Cameron cross, which was right on the money for him, but that would have certainly altered the direction of traffic on their second half, and then Rangers got the third just after that with Esser's goal, and that kind of just sealed the game, and the rest of the match was kind of eased out gently. But first half, I think Dundee were probably fortunate not to give away a penalty from a challenge on Cyril Dessers, and eventually the referee giving one second half, which I don't think was as blatant as the one in the first half that Dundee got away with. But is that something that you see a lot from the likes of Mohamed Salah in terms of the way that you defend corners?
No, that is one thing that shocked me on Saturday was. Now, I'm obviously assuming that he was told to mark Silla Dessers at every corner, because that's what it looked like in the matchup. But Silla is never usually clumsy. I want to just say it was incredibly clumsy. It was terrible defending. I've never seen him like that. So I'm quite shocked. Don't get me wrong. I expect that from probably our centre halves. they're very hands-on, but from
Mm.
Silla, definitely not something I've seen in his game so far. So very shocked. I think the first one for me was definitely a penalty. I'm very surprised that VAR looked at that and thought, let's not give that. So I reckon when it came to the second foul in the box, I'm wondering if the ref has went in at halftime, has seen the foul in the first half, thought, okay, need to keep an eye on that. And the minute he's seen it in the second half, he's got to give it. I think it was sooner than the first, but I still think both were penalties.
Yeah, that was certainly my take on it, was having maybe been made aware of it, maybe by the fourth official, not us. But maybe at half time that he looked back on it and went, actually, no, that should have been given. And I think it's always a bit of a take when even Michael Stewart on commentary in Premier Sports says it's a penalty to Rangers, because it's not usually a take that Michael Stewart tends to have. So normally when he says that it's a penalty, you know there's probably something in it. And obviously Tavernier steps up and gets the goal, and obviously that's a goal and assist for Tavernier in the game. And we spoke on Thursday night about it's not been the greatest of starts for Tav, and I don't really think Dundee challenged them too many opportunities in behind them, although you did have that opportunity towards the end of the game where Tav decided to pass it straight to your player straight on goal. But I think Butland was very alert to the situation and kind of stopped that becoming a problem. But really, it was a better performance, I think, from the Rangers captain in that one. So all in all, a 3-0 win for Rangers, and they will see themselves back at Hampden for a semi-final against Motherwell, which we played on the Sunday, first weekend in November. I think for Dundee, maybe a slight missed opportunity, but I think we spoke on Thursday about just wanting to kind of get back into a bit of form in the league, and you've got a few games coming up now that gives you the opportunity to get some more points on the board.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing. I think when we seen the team lineup come out from Tony Docherty, it was one of a probably shock and surprise that we stuck with what we assumed was the 4-3-3 formation. I thought it's very attacking. It's not often that we will come to Ibrox and go that attacking. So it was a bit of a don't know what to make of the lineup. Probably dropped a few boys that I wouldn't have dropped, that the fans probably wouldn't have liked to have seen dropped either. But you could see straight away from when the game started, it wasn't so much a 4-3-3, but sort of a 4-5-1, and Simon Murray was up there by himself, which I think everybody knows that Simon Murray is not that lone striker up there, and don't think it will work against Rangers at home either. So I was pretty disappointed in that. I think obviously you just need to kind of shake it off, especially because we do have Aberdeen coming up at the weekend, and I don't think although I think Aberdeen have been playing some good football, I don't think Aberdeen have came up against a really strong opponent as of yet, whether that be in the league or the cup. So I'm interested in to see, especially at home, if we could take the game to them. So it's definitely we need to just forget about the defeat at the weekend and try and go again. The comments from Lyle this week, though, don't really have the fans in the most happiest of times. It's kind of a bit like, feels like you're looking forward to a move already and not really keeping your head focused on where it needs to be, which is Dundee at the minute.
And I think we've seen that before, and I think obviously Conor Barron's been guilty of that as well up at Aberdeen, and he found himself out the team at parts at Aberdeen last season when certain people were saying his eyes were on a move, and so he ended up at Rangers in the summer, and thought he, particularly second half, could come on to a good game again at the weekend. So yeah, I think one that we'll watch with interest. We spoke on Thursday about Cameron obviously had interest from Rangers on transfer deadline day, and I think obviously with the McCowan deal going to Celtic, it just wasn't a deal where you were going to let both of them go. But I just wonder whether that will be revisited maybe in January, and it might be best for all parties to maybe get some money in, because I do think he is a player that's got a decent high ceiling. But there's a lot of football to be played between now and the window reopening in January. So yeah, we'll watch with interest and see how that one goes. Elsewhere in Scottish football over the weekend, obviously the other big news was around Hearts sacking Stephen Naismith and his management team after yet another defeat for them. They went down 2-1 to St Mirren. not been a good start at all from the Jambos this year. That's now 8 defeats on the spin for them in all competitions. So I think that one's really been in the post now for a few weeks, but they've got a big week ahead. Not only Rangers having a trip to Malmo, but Hearts also travel to Minsk on Thursday night for a Europa Conference League tie, and Liam Fox will be in temporary charge for that one. So Craig Levein found himself out of a job as well recently, and I just wonder whether or not 2 and 2 might become 5 again on that one. But what's your take on the management merry-go-round that started in earnest this week?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, Nathan Naismith is definitely deserving of being sacked. I think eight without a win now. That's
It defeats on the bounce, yeah. So it's not
so,
even draws. It's it defeats on the bounce across all
and I think
competitions
somebody
since
had
they
said
drew
to
with
me as
Rangers
well.
actually in the first place. So.
I know. I think somebody had said to me as well. It's actually 1 in 18 if you count the pre-season friendlies, etc. So it's terrible statistics for Hearts. But I think they would be smart in going down the Aberdeen route and looking for a manager out with Scotland. I think there's obviously the talk of Tony Bloom coming in and investing 10 billion, and I highly doubt if he was to come in that he would be happy with the Scottish manager merry-go-round. I think his sights will be set elsewhere to try and make sure that Hearts are cemented in at least European places for the next sort of few seasons, especially if he's investing that kind of money.
Yeah, there's obviously a talented squad there that, for whatever reason, Naismith hasn't been able to settle on his best 11, or he's not been able to get the best out of players like Jan Danda and the Blair Spittle that have come in over the summer. Lawrence Shankland, for whatever reason, hasn't looked anywhere near the threat that he did last season. So, yeah, stuff to be done at Hearts. And obviously St Johnstone also looking now for a new manager as well, having let Craig Levein go. Andy Kirk in temporary charge at the moment as well. And I just wonder where the Saints will go for their next manager as well.
I think obviously Andy Kirk for me is probably just a bit of a stopgap, just to try and maybe get some level head, and try and get at least a few points on the board while they are out searching for another manager. I think for me, with St Johnstone, I think I would probably tout Rhys McCabe for the job, whether or not he wants to leave Airdrie, because I know he's still happy kind of being in that player manager role, and that wouldn't be an option at St Johnstone. But he's a young up-and-coming manager. Especially from last season, you do see that he's got some really great, bright ideas. Likes to play quick, fast attacking football. Whether St Johnstone have got the personnel for that this season, if he was to walk straight into the job, I'm not so sure. But I definitely think he would probably be the best fit. I know there's been Gary Boyers kind of being thrown about as well, linked with the job. Done a great job for Dundee in the Championship, but just not seeing St Johnstone fitting with Boyer. So for me, it's McCabe, and I know Ian Murray's out of a job, so whether that interests him or whether they fancy him, I'm not sure.
Yeah, certainly Murray's been quite vocal about being interested in having a conversation with them. So whether or not that happens or not, we'll watch it with interest. As I say, lots of big games coming up this week across Scottish football, with the start of the Europa League and the Conference League, and then obviously back in action for league business next weekend. That will pretty much do us for this video here on the Fourth Official. A big thank you to everyone, as always, for engaging with us, for watching, for hitting that subscribe button. And I'm delighted to announce that obviously Nicola will be involved with the Fourth Official in many capacities, I think, throughout the season, alongside a few of our colleagues from Salmon's Pizzeria Pod as well. So loads of new faces, new voices to hear across the season, on both here on YouTube and on our Patreon channel. Thank you all for watching. I'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.